Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! So, I used to work as a cashier in a supermarket. This story took place on my first day of work there, and my second day working at a cash register on my own without a supervisor sitting next to me, teaching me the ropes I mean. Yes, I had 2 days of training. I'm sure most of you will figure out in which country I live from the following explanation. It will become relevant later. Supermarkets in my country are a zoo on a regular day. However, Thursdays and Fridays are absolute mayhem at the store and are a special kind of hell. Fridays the store closes 2 hours before sundown, as do most stores in this country. During winter this means around 2 p.m. and in summer closer to 4:30. People get crazy on Fridays trying to get all their shopping done and get home in time to cook dinner. If you can avoid coming to the store on Friday, please do so at all costs. I always tell people this after this day. The reason Thursday are hell is because we get all the customers who don't want to come on Friday. Now this was early evening on a Thursday at a time when the store is absolutely jam-packed. We had 10 checkout lines open and every line had at least 6 to 7 people in line. Basically, if you are stuck with a slow cashier, there is nowhere else to go. Unless you have 10 items or less. Everything is going well until I get a customer with 2 shopping carts full of items, mostly non-perishable items. And these are the large carts you find around big stores in the US, like Walmart. I found out later he buys this for a community center in his neighborhood, and he fills up their pantry twice a year. Nice guy. He greeted me very politely and then said the most dreaded words I could have heard that night. This will be a delivery. Just a quick break from the story to explain why this was so dreaded. Especially on a day like this. When we get a delivery, the cashier would call a helper from the store to help bag the groceries. Usually people do their own bagging. The bags would then be placed in plastic containers, and containers would then be placed on top of each other and taken to the back fridge until delivery. A regular delivery is usually between 3 to 5 crates. Each crate has a number, which then I have to input all of them into the computer, along with the correct delivery address and phone number, and print out with a receipt and place copies in the crates. Even for a small delivery, this always takes extra time. Back to the story. This guy has 2 full carts and wants the delivery. I say sure, no problem. Then I turn to everyone else in line and let them know that this is a delivery, and it will take just a bit longer than usual, and I apologize for any delay this may cause. We always do this so customers will be aware of the delay and can move to another cashier if they are in a hurry. This is when the whole line groans simultaneously. I don't blame them. There was nowhere else to go. I could see every one of them craning their necks to check out other lines, but they all decided to stay. So I start scanning as fast as I can. I'm pretty good with numbers, so even though it's my first day, I remember many of the codes and things are moving rather quickly. I get to a point where the bagger can't keep up with all the items, and the area to the left of me, where I place all the scanned items, is just a mountain of cans and bags of chips and whatnots. I can't even scan another item because they are falling back onto my scale. At this point, I stop and ask if he wants help bagging. The customer and the bagger are both appreciative, and I help bag groceries for a few minutes. Just enough to clear some space so I can continue scanning items. This happens every few minutes. It gets full, I stop to help, clear some space, and keep going. And this is where the Karen comes into play. She's maybe early 40s, long brown hair, and looks nothing like a Karen. Except for the way she was standing, with one hand on a hip that extended so far to the side, I wasn't sure how she's still standing. She's in my line, about 5 to 6 people in front of her still. And this is the conversation that follows.
Hello, what are you doing?
Me not answering cause I didn't think she was talking to me. I kept scanning.
Excuse me? What kind of a cashier are you? Why aren't you doing your job? Stop being lazy and do your job.
She screams at the top of her lungs. I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm just trying to.
That's not your job. You're a cashier. Do your job.
I realize now after reading so many Reddit stories that this would have been a perfect chance for some malicious compliance. I'm sure some of you hope that I did just what Karen wanted. Too bad I didn't know about it then. Or that it was only my first day on the job. That's not what happened. Although, I dream sometimes that I did just that. Sit back and sip my coffee until the space is cleared for more scanned items. You know, be a cashier. Next time though. Anyways, I tell her, I'm just helping to move things along faster. If this is a problem, or you are in a hurry, feel free to move to another line. I'm sure another cashier will be more than happy to serve you. I may sound like I'm the jerk with this line, but I said it really nicely, not sarcastic at all. Obviously, that did not help. Karen not listening anyway and having none of it.
Just do your job. You're a cashier. What is wrong with you? Are you stupid? You should be fired.
I see one of the managers, let's call him Joe, walk up to Karen. Joe is great, by the way, always helping the workers. He asks, what seems to be the problem here? Karen still yelling,
your cashier is awful. She's lazy and she's not doing her job. You should fire her. Tell her to do her job. She's not doing her job.
Joe looks over at me for a second, understands exactly what is happening, turns to Karen and says, can't you see she's trying to help? She's trying to make this go much faster. Now Karen starts screaming words. I'm assuming, but I couldn't really make them out. She was practically foaming at the mouth. Joe tries to calm her down by explaining or trying to how me bagging items is actually helping. And this makes Karen even more irate, if you can believe it. Spit flying from her mouth, arms flailing, and screaming like a banshee. Suddenly I notice an older woman, nice old lady, must have been around 80 years old, trying to get Karen's attention by tapping her on the shoulder. It takes a few tries, but she finally gets her attention and spins her around by the shoulder. She tells her,
hey Karen, excuse me. Karen, what? Your daughter is crying.
And this is when the entire store seemed to have stopped talking all at once. Like someone pressed mute and turned off the volume. The sea of people in front of me parts a bit. We all look down and see a little girl who couldn't have been older than 4, clutching her mother's thighs, bawling her eyes out, not coming out of everywhere, and hyperventilating. This girl was terrified, and I cannot blame her. Seeing her mother going off like that must have been terrifying. She has no idea what's happening. She's in a huge store where she knows no one, and she's practically invisible. This silence lasted an entire 2 seconds, because that's when Karen started yelling at Joe.
Look what you did! You and your stupid lazy cashier made my daughter cry.
Things happened in slow motion for the next few seconds, and she starts to swing towards Joe. Joe is not a big guy, but he's bigger than Karen, that's for sure. And he's not easily intimidated. Not his first Karen. She would have dicked him right in the face if the nice old lady hadn't grabbed her in a bear hug to stop her. Yes, she did. I had to pick up my jaw off the floor. At that point, other customers got involved, trying to peel off the nice old lady from Karen and stop Karen from trying to kill Joe. And from Joe trying to kill Karen cause he was fuming by then. At this point, I saw mall security storm the castle. Our store was inside a mall. And the sea of people just surrounded Karen and I couldn't really see much of anything anymore. Kind of like football players when this is a fumble and they all jump on the ball. By the sound of yelling getting farther and farther away, I figured Karen was being led either to the back office or to the mall security office, the mall jail. This entire time this is happening, I'm still bagging and scanning items, and I'm about halfway through this customer's purchase. I finished up with him with no more problems. He was very nice and thanked me profusely for helping with the bags, even though technically it wasn't part of my job. He said I was the fastest and nicest cashier he ever had the pleasure of meeting. I was just happy to help. No one else in my line complained. I actually got my compliments from people about keeping my composure. Apparently, many cashiers in my country think it's okay to yell at customers and just be plain nasty. I worked in customer service for many years prior, and I have never yelled at a customer, even if they deserved it. Once the rush died down a bit, I went for a break. I met another employee in a back room and I started to tell him of what just happened. But he cut me off saying, "She was yelling at you?" Well, everyone heard that, but I had no idea what was happening. He told me that the police were called and Karen was escorted out of the store and the mall in handcuffs. I filled him in on everything and we spent the next 30 minutes laughing. What a crazy show that was. I joined the army and my first duty station was Okinawa, Japan. It's a beautiful island with awesome people and delicious food. I hated my unit. My first sergeant picked on me. My first line was the worst though. She wanted to give me non-judicial punishment. I was trying to build a file. The problem is she had nothing on me. So she just badgered me and said all of my work was awful while taking credit for all of my work, if that makes sense. Like I would count people on the island and their status, present for duty, temporary duty, sick leave, regular leave, pass and so on. She'd take credit for compiling the report by having me send it to her, for her to send it to our higher echelon in Hawaii. If someone needed a list, say of everyone with blue eyes, I could run a query in a system and get that list. I was a master of many aspects, and she took all my credit for me taking time to learn my job properly. If someone needed anything on the record, I would update it. If they needed a file on permanent record, I uploaded it. When the commander needed to know who was coming to the island and who was leaving, I made that list every single month. When it was my time to leave, they asked me where I wanted my farewell lunch. I said I didn't want a lunch nor an award. I was leaving one morning to go change after we worked out and my platoon sergeant asked me what I'm doing for my farewell. I said, I am not doing anything. He went to my supervisor and complained. I was then called into his office. There was my platoon sergeant, my supervisor, and her supervisor. He said, "What did you say this morning?" I said something like, "I'm not doing anything for my farewell." He said, "No, I want the exact words." They were going to give me non-judicial punishment for not wanting a farewell. My commander who signs the paperwork suggesting punishment said hell no, because I was leaving in 2 weeks. It made no sense. Non-judicial punishment is one of 4 things up to doing all 4. Loss of rank, taking of pay, restricted to pays up to 45 days, and extra duty for up to 45 days. It made no sense honestly to put in the paperwork on a departing soldier. They forced me to choose a restaurant and put in for the lowest award. Army Achievement Medal, worth 5 promotion points. The base command sergeant major's policy was no one left without anything lower than an Army Commendation Medal, worth 10 promotion points. So I chose the most expensive restaurant. A few people showed up and they presented my award. They asked me for a speech and I said, "Remarks complete," and then walked back to my seat. Someone said, "Damn, Sergeant has nothing to say? She must be sick." My officer in command of my area said she'd pay for my lunch. I grabbed my baby from my lieutenant and I left. I only let her hold my baby so I could be presented an award. I didn't want anyone there to even touch my child except the Filipino mafia. Filipino soldiers. There were a lot and they called themselves a mafia. They taught me a lot of dirty Tagalog and some Visayan. I took the award and walked into the commander's office and said, "It's clear I was given this only because Commander Sergeant Major wanted to know why I was leaving without an award. It's the lowest award you can give." He said, "You don't want your paperwork for your records?" And I said nope. So I bought a beeping device. It made a few beeping sounds every few minutes. I went into my office early one morning, climbed on top of the filing cabinet, and tossed it over the wall to her office about 3 days before I left. I sat there and listened to those beeps with joy. Another troop in my office kept saying, "What is that beeping?" I just soaked it in. She had to listen to it until the battery died, or she was stationed back to the US. Should have let me leave silently. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.